And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are enjoying the basketball season. It is another wacky, wild ride in Division III basketball. Another wacky Wednesday as well, as it is. I'm telling you, it's something about Wednesdays. You get plenty of upsets. I'm not saying upsets aren't happening on other nights. They certainly happen on Saturdays, but there's something about Wednesday this season that it just does not bode well if you are a top 25 lover, if you are a conference runner along, as it were, in the lead. It's just been a battle, and yet again, it is a battle on Wednesday nights. In Division III, as the undefeated team, no more in men's basketball. We lost the 53-game winning streak for women's basketball by FDU Florham just the other night on Saturday, and Marietta is the last men's team to stand up. Chapman, in the meantime, it was the second to last, by the way. They've now lost 3 games, losing again on Wednesday as well, or was it back on Tuesday? But Marietta losing to Mount Union, not a surprise. I mean, listen, Mount Union's a good team, and I don't think any Marietta fan thought they were going to get through the rest of the season unscathed, at least realistically. They probably hoped it. But probably looked at games like Mount Union and John Carroll on the schedule and went, yeah, I don't know about this. And lo and behold, I don't know about this is the case. So congratulations to everybody for not having an undefeated team make the NCAA tournament. As again, Marietta loses. Augustana spanked Illinois Wesleyan. Remember, Illinois Wesleyan beat Augustana at Augustana. Augustana returned the favor and then some. Absolutely destroyed them. Wasn't even close in that one. So, no surprise, certainly. I'm not going to say there was a surprise there, but at the same time, just craziness, to say the least. So, destruction of plenty. Let's just say destruction of plenty in Division III men's and women's basketball in recent days. Not really women's basketball, I shouldn't say that. Men's basketball. We'll keep eyes on scores tonight, but certainly there's scores to keep track of yesterday as soon as they come up. It's a little slow on my computer here. Again, Stevens Point. Oh, I forgot. Duh. Number 1 team in the country has lost. Whitewater losing. Stevens Point defeating them 72-69 on Stevens Point home court. That splits the series between the two of them. It's going to come down to tie breaks, I think, in the conference. We'll have to double-check that. Mount Union over Marietta, as we point out, so number 1 and number 3 lose. Randolph-Macon won again. Virginia Wesleyan lost to Eastern Mennonite by 12 on the road, so number 5 lost. You talk about Wacky Wednesday. 1, 3, and 5 lost. Babson won, but Dickinson lost, so 1, 3, 5, 9 lost. Reports are Dickinson might be dealing with a little bit of a stomach bug or the flu. That certainly didn't help, but McDaniel played well. That game also on the road. So far, all the upsets road games, we should point out as well, except for Illinois Wesleyan losing at home to Augustana. WPI got back in the winning ways, beating MIT. St. Olaf beat Augsburg. Catholic defeated Goucher 185. I was at that game. That was an interesting game. First half, Goucher shot the lights out of the building. 9 for 14 from beyond the arc. And had a lead at halftime, scoring over 50 points on Catholic. Catholic certainly shut them down in the second half and then exploded in the second half themselves. It had to have been that end of the court, right in front of Catholic's bench, was where everybody was shooting pretty darn well. Catholic survives that one. Bryson Fonville found everybody. 15 assists, breaking a building record. I've now seen Catholic 3 times this season in person. Twice at the Hoopsville Classic and now, and I've certainly seen them on video, and this is certainly they're playing better, it seems, basketball than I saw them at the Hoopsville Classic. Only concern I have is the bench. Of the 100 points, 97 of them were scored by the starters. And that's certainly good. I'm not saying that's not a good thing to have, but I think you want some more bench production besides for some defensive spells and some inopportune fouls. But Catholic survives that game. Richard Stockton lost yet again at home. New Jersey City with the win. William Patterson lost to Kane. Hey, the NJAC's tough. I will not disagree. The NJAC's tough. But the top of the NJAC I don't think is as good as everybody thinks it is. Because to be honest with you, you shouldn't be losing to Kane in New Jersey City if you're Richard Stockton and William Patterson. Ohio Wesleyan survived against Wabash. Elmer smoked North Park. And that's your top 25 from just yesterday on the men's side of things. So 1, 3, 5, 9, 20, 19 and 24, 19, 22 and 24 all lose yesterday in men's basketball action. Scranton's in trouble. You want to talk about Mid-Atlantic talk. Scranton is in trouble. They lost to Susquehanna. I still think if they split the next potential 2 games against Catholic, they'll wrap up the regular season against Catholic a week from Saturday, then they'll probably play each other in the championship. Let's just make that assumption. If Scranton wins the last game of the regular season and then loses to Catholic in the championship game, I think Scranton gets in. If Scranton loses both to Catholic, I think Scranton's in trouble of making the NCAA tournament. Consider that for a moment. Other games that jumped, I mean, there's a ton of games yesterday that jumped out at me, to be honest with you. Across the board, lots of action going on. Franklin and Marshall held Ursinus to 38 points. Remember that Ursinus team that defeated Dickinson on Saturday? F&M held them to 38 points and scored 91. I think some revenge was enacted there for losing to Washington College. Top of the Centennial is slowly but surely becoming Johns Hopkins to lose. Nothing else. I'm sure there's other results we'll get to, and they'll jump out at us in due time here. But fascinating night. Stevenson lost. Men's basketball, that is. We're talking men's here. Stevenson lost to Alvernia. Alvernia may be the best team in the MAC Commonwealth right now, arguably. And yet again, last year, same thing. Struggled early, came roaring on late, won the AQ. Could Alvernia do it again? Who knows? So that's the men. We'll take a look at the women here momentarily, too, though a little bit more status quo, as it were. Certainly nothing to get worried about necessarily. On the women's side, kind of a little bit more as the results were expected. Scranton women, for example, locking up the landmark conference number 1 seed. Stevenson women win their 17th in a row. They've locked up the number 1 seed in the Commonwealth. So those are 2 big bids in the Mid-Atlantic. Of course, we talk Mid-Atlantic here on Thursdays. Thomas More had an easy time of it. St. Thomas had an easy time of it. FDU Florham got back into the winning ways, starting a new win streak. Galvin had an easy time over Alma. Montclair State over Rowan. I mean, really no surprises here. DePaul did have a scare against Wittenberg. Went to overtime, won by 4, 62-58. Hope defeated Kalamazoo. Scranton, as we mentioned, over Susquehanna. Transylvania over Franklin. Wheaton over Milliken. No surprises here. Salisbury over Wesley. Oshkosh over La Crosse. North Central did lose, by the way, to Carthage. So there's your big upset in Division III women's basketball. Carthage defeating North Central. Eastern defeated Kings and Cabrini over Newman. Those are your top 25. And no real blow-away surprises there, except for maybe Carthage over North Central. Remember, Carthage is a good coach team anyway. So, and let's talk about some of the particulars. I am wearing an NYU shirt tonight. Remember, the deal is we decorate our set with the shirts or paraphernalia that we have gotten. We always have the Laurel Hill, Ohio Wesleyan Bishops number 22 jersey over our shoulder. You'll also notice the Johns Hopkins men's basketball jersey that we have. That is the Wheaton women's basketball shirt that they sent with the basketball rim right there. They sent a great shirt there. That is Alverno basketball. You can't tell. I apologize. I thought you could see that better, but that's Alverno. There's a Carthage shirt hiding in the corner there. If you want us to wear your gear, we will select a random shirt every show from here on out. But if you want us to wear your gear, or if you want something in our background, send it to us. Email us or tweet us, and we'll get you information on how you can get it to us. If you want us to wear your shirt, you can make a donation to the Hoopsville fundraising project. We have a little over about 2.5 weeks left in that project. We are halfway to our goal, but that's less than a quarter than what we raised last year, because our goal isn't as high, I would, that will, if you select a certain perk, we'll wear your shirt while interviewing a guest of your choice and maybe interview you. Speaking of which, we will have one of our donators, one of those who donated to us is what I'm trying to say, on the show a little bit later. You can also send it to us, as we said, and we may wear it. So to send us, to get information on how you can send us paraphernalia, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Let's talk about who's on the show tonight. We'll start off in men's basketball with St. Vincent out of the Great Lakes region. Team is resigned to the fact that they're going to have to win the automatic bid. And as a result, we talked to their head coach, D.P. Harris, about that fact. We'll talk to him coming up here on the show. We'll also then talk women's basketball, and this is in order. We'll talk to Geneseo State and their head coach, Scott Hemmer, coming up on the show about his Knights and how well they're playing, and also a terrific story about one of his student athletes, how she's being honored for what she is doing in the community, but why that in the community effort is being done thanks to personal experience. Incredible story about getting back on the floor. That is coming up here on Hoopsville. Also, Mary Washington women's basketball will join us. We'll talk to them about the crazy CAC and how Salisbury is playing, but more in particular, are the Eagles perched to maybe make a strike at another conference title or at least make the NCAA tournament? We'll talk to Dina Applebury coming up on the show. Our School of the Week, sponsored by the City of Salem. Coming up, Sage men's basketball will join us. Sage certainly playing terrific basketball and leading the conference. We'll talk to their head coach and have a little trivia fun with him as well. And then we'll head out west. Well, at least the west region. We'll head to Iowa. Buena Vista will join us. Brian Van Haften will join us to talk about his squad, talk about how the IIAC is lining up. Of course, he just came off the national committee. Maybe he'll give us some of his thoughts on the first regional rankings. Of course, those first regional rankings have come out. I don't think any major surprises. Maybe because I got an idea of how that all may transpire. Women seem pretty status quo. Men's side, I think there's some noticing how low Albertus Magnus is. You'll remember here on the show, I warned you that was going to happen. They are 10th in the Northeast Regional Rankings. I suspect they could climb into the top 5, depending on losses ahead of them. But with one loss to the only significant team they ended up playing this season, and with a low SOS, Albertus Magnus is 10th. Now, Bates is 1 in that region. Here's the trick. As soon as we get the results versus regionally ranked opponents data that will come out and be used next week, that will change. All regional rankings will adjust according to the results versus regionally ranked opponents. That information just is not available. What I gathered, and by the way, Marietta was number 1 in the region, no surprise there, but I think there was definitely a conversation. Whitewater was number 1 in the region, by the way, over Augustana, who was 2. It was not cut and dry that Whitewater would be number 1. I did get that note. But nonetheless, results versus regionally ranked will get in there. What I gathered from watching the men's side especially is all the data is being getting a hard look at. Head-to-heads being factored in, certainly SOS and record. Good SOSs are being rewarded, but so are good win-loss percentages. Remember, we're seeing a lot more losses now than we're used to, so that's playing a factor into those SOSs a little bit. Also important to keep in mind is that all of this doesn't mean much right now. Next week, they'll have results versus regionally ranked opponents, and that will certainly be important. But after that, week 1 means nothing because we don't have a once ranked, always ranked scenario here. So that won't matter. Week 2, after week 3s are published, week 2s won't matter anymore. And of course, week 3s won't technically matter anymore once they finally do their final regional rankings, which we won't see anyway. But just keep in mind, week 1's a good informational point of view. Get an idea of what's going on. There's some glitches. Some of the data wasn't exactly correct. We've contacted the NCAA and told them about a couple of those items, and they have been remedied, and they will be fixed for next week. Note about next week, the regional rankings will come out for all 3 sports, men's, women's basketball, and ice hockey, on Thursday. Thursday next week. Reason being, over the weekend, the servers that take all the stats in and all the results for the NCAA, everything, are being upgraded the entire weekend. Nothing is getting sent or getting to the NCAA. The NCAA is not receiving anything. So that won't be done until Monday. So that will push everything, including conference calls, etc. Normally on Mondays, the RACs have a call and a vote. Then Tuesday, the National Committee votes. And on Wednesday, it's released. This will now go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Thursday next week, regional rankings will be published. By the way, regional rankings on the men's side came out right about 2:15 or so, 2:15, 2:30, certainly earlier than we usually have it. Women's came out a couple hours later. But certainly things improving in the sense of releasing that. But again, next week, Thursday. Now, games will still be based on what was played through Sunday. Once the servers are up, everything will be sent to the NCAA. And then Sunday's games will still be the deadline. It's just we're going to get the regional rankings coming out a day later on Thursday instead of Wednesday. So I think we got that covered. I'm trying to think if there's any other major news to share with you. Just a reminder again, regional rankings, good conversation starter, but I next week we'll see the biggest movement, plain and simple. We have a number of losses to take into account. Let's consider this, folks. Just consider this for a moment. Whitewater loses and Augustana is winning. There's a chance Augustana takes over number one if the conversation, and it wasn't that cut and dry, was Whitewater. From what I heard, when the conversation came up, who would host, Whitewater or Augustana? It was a close vote. That's what I gathered. That's interesting. Remember, Augustana has the win over Whitewater in the criteria. Interesting, to say the least. So we'll see how this all plays out, as it were. There's certainly plenty to figure out. And it's just the first regional rankings. But, with more upsets, it's a crazy year. And we're going to see that transpire. Again, we're talking men's side. Women's side, kind of status quo. Went through the regional rankings. Nothing jumped out at me that seemed glaring. And it's probably because, one, you got a lot of teams that are pretty status quo with it. And two, because there isn't any major surprises. There's just nothing that jumps out at you that goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe, blah, 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 blah. You look at the women, Montclair State, number one, FDU Florham, number two in the Atlantic. No surprise there. Montclair State has the better SOS. They also have one more win, but, no surprise there. Central Region, WashU, number one. Yeah, no surprise. East, NYU, number one. Yeah, no surprise. Stevens has a low SOS, so that's why they're in fourth. Great Lakes, Thomas More, then Calvin, then DePaul, then Hope. Can't argue that. Really can't. I think that's pretty good. Transylvania's deep, but they don't have a very strong SOS. So is St. Vincent. Again, no strong SOS. Mid-Atlantic seemed about right. Salisbury, then Scranton, then Stevenson, then McDaniel, but because McDaniel's SOS is pretty low. They're in the conversation, but at 20-1 with a low SOS. You might have been able to argue over Stevenson, but that's a tough one. I wouldn't jump on that for sure. Interesting, Stevenson's 18-2 on there. I have to check that. I think that might be not correct. Now that I look at that. That didn't jump out at me earlier. Call up Stevenson women. No, they're 19-2 now, so yeah, that does add up. They lost one game due to weather. Not sure if that'll play that big a factor. Northeast on the women's side, hard to argue. Tufts is one. Bowdoin certainly playing well. Amherst playing well. Williams playing well. Really can't argue any of that. South, can't argue that. West, George Fox over St. Thomas. Can't say that's a surprise. I bet you could split hairs on that one. What's really surprising is Whitworth's 13-2 in Division III, 19-2 overall. Whitworth played a ton of games that mean absolutely nothing in most of the criteria in women's basketball. That could come back to haunt them. You have a lot less wiggle room when you play Eastern Oregon twice. You play College of Idaho, Corbin, Walla Walla, and Northwest of Washington. It doesn't matter. Doesn't count. So, things to keep in mind here in Division III as we work our way 2.5 weeks left in the regular season. Reminder, we're on the air 7 o'clock Eastern time all nights, of course, until 9. Usually. We're probably going to overtime. We will go into overtime tonight. So plenty to talk about in Division III, and we'll get you all covered right here. Don't forget, you can tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk to St. Vincent men's basketball about their squad, and then talk to Geneseo women, followed by Mary Washington women. We'll talk Sage men's basketball and Buena Vista men's basketball as well. That's all coming up here on Hoopsville. If you got any questions for us, again, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field. It will matter how they do in the classroom.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are enjoying our show here this evening of Thursday, February 12th. If you got any questions for us or our guests, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can also, of course, join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. All that information scrolling at the bottom of your screen as well. Don't forget the Hoopsville fundraising project. Got about 2.5 weeks left in it. We've been kind of low-key about it, mentioning it every once in a while, and now it's time to step it up because we're only halfway to a very small and modest goal, especially compared to last year. If you think of it compared to last year, we're only 1/4 of the way there. Any help you can give us helps us cover Division III the way we think Division III deserves to be covered. So we appreciate any time and effort you could consider there. If you can't make a donation, we certainly understand. At least pass it on to those who may be interested or you think might be interested as well. Again, 2.5 weeks left to go in the regular season as well. Certainly lots to talk about, and Wacky Wednesdays has been the theme, but that's not necessarily everything we're talking about in Division III basketball. We're going to jump into women's basketball with this segment and talk up in the East region. SUNYAC maybe is flying a little bit under the radar, as it were, certainly not in regional rankings, but team leading the way right now is Geneseo State, and we figured we better take a trip up to Geneseo and find out how they're doing. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is the Geneseo women's basketball coach, Scott Hammer. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Hi, Dave. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time. Again, 16-4 overall, 12-1. No surprise you're in the thick of things. Last year, 21-7. The year before, 20-7. Always in the run for the SUNYAC at the top of things, but certainly this year in the lead, you got to feel pretty good about that right now.
Yeah, well, it's a long season. We're certainly excited where we're at. We've had we've gone through some periods of time where we were battling injuries and had people in and out of the lineup. So the fact that we were able to overcome some of that adversity and get us to a point where we could compete for the title down the home stretch, I guess that's all you can ask for as a coach.
Yeah, certainly. Competing is important. You guys have said, again, I said in the lead in the conference, you've got to Game and a half lead on Cortland State, who's 11-3 in conference play. New Paltz is at 10-4. Really, it looks like a three-horse race right now, though you, again, have that game and a half lead. I mean, it's almost redundant to say it's important to have home court advantage, but how important is it to have it come through Geneseo, which isn't exactly the easiest place to get to in upstate New York?
Well, yeah, we've done very well at home. We've yet to lose on our home court this year, and you know, obviously, I think as with anybody, it's the comfort, it's the routine. You know, all of that helps prep your team and get them mentally ready. A little bit easier than getting off the bus on the road and having to go through the hoops, but. You know, for us, we're really just trying to focus on one game at a time, and I know that sounds cliche, but you know, we're really trying to just put our best foot forward every night. We understand, especially this time of year, you kind of get into those doldrums a little bit, and it starts to drag you down a little bit, and we're just trying to focus on our energy and coming up with as perfect of an effort as we can every game, and if we do that, you know, we feel pretty good about our chances to have an opportunity to host, and again, I think that'll be significant since we've been playing so well at home.
Haven't lost since January 10th back when you're on the road at New Paltz, one of the longer trips that you have on your schedule. The previous loss was to St. John Fisher in the Wendy's Classic back on December 6th. That was back-to-back after losing to Division II, we should say, Roberts Wesleyan. And, of course, you have a loss to Wilmington back on the second part of the season. So looking at that, the second half of the season has certainly been very friendly for you guys as you've won 10 in a row. What's been the trick the last 10 that has bode so well with the winning stretch? And in a lot of games, you've been in very much control of the game, especially late.
Well, I think it's a credit to our players. I really think they've done a tremendous job focusing on what they need to do each day, whether it's practice or game day, with the end in mind. You've got a group now that with everybody returning from last year's team at 21-7 that made the conference championship, and a lot of players back from the year before that went 21-7 and made the conference championship. So these kids have been through this a couple times now, and I think they're excited that, you know, I think they came into this season hoping that their time had come, that they knocked on the doorstep when they were young. They've now got a couple years under their belt. We've got a couple seniors that really have stepped up this year, and I think, you know, they're really focused on what they need to do each and every day, and that's ultimately what's driving the success.
Well, yeah, obviously last year ending the season in the championship game at Plattsburgh, and then the year before ending on the road at New Paltz. No postseason play. I'm sure the seniors, which you have a lot of, are kind of itching to get into the NCAA tournament the way this season's moved along. And as you say, the way it looked on paper going in.
Well, this group was recruited during the year back in 2010-11 when last time we won the conference tournament, went on the NCAAs, actually had the opportunity to host the first two rounds, and that was exciting, and many of them came to watch that game. So I think, you know, I think at this point, you know, they've seen it and they've been close to it, and now they're kind of itching at their opportunity. But you know, we talked about it coming in. We're certainly going to have a target on your back making the finals the year before with everybody returning. We didn't lose any seniors to graduation, so they've got everybody back, and they really knew what was in front of them, and I have to give them credit because they've really taken it head on, and they haven't backed down. And, you know, we went through some injuries, and you know, some of the travel can get a little crazy, especially with the academics here, but they've really stepped it up, and you know, I'm thrilled to just be a part of it.
Obviously, it was just the first regional rankings. A lot can change, but what kind of reaction do you get as a coach when you look and you see, yeah, you are going to be you are second in those first regional rankings? At least, what does that tell you moving forward? Obviously, a lot can change. I just mean, how does that help you in at least understanding where you're positioned right now?
Well, you know, you're right. A lot can change, and it can change just in the next upcoming days. Not just with us, but other teams within the region. But you know, I think it's a good indication of you know, what we've done to get to this point. Some of the games on our schedule, and some of the strength of our conference, and I think the kids are smart enough to know that the higher you're ranked, the better chances are of making the postseason, and I think that excites them a little bit, and hopefully it will do a little bit to help motivate them down the road here as we start to get a little tired and beat up going into the home stretch.
Yeah, sure. Even a chance to host potentially, obviously, a lot on the way down. We got 2.5 weeks left in the season and 2 more regional rankings to see and a third one not to see. So obviously a lot could happen. Let's talk about the conference quickly before we get off that topic. Cortland State again right behind you. New Paltz back there. You again, only losses to New Paltz so far in conference action. And you've got them coming up along with Oneonta State and Oswego at home before you'll have to hit the road against Potsdam and Plattsburgh. Your advantage is that you've swept Cortland this season, or at least in the game both games. Obviously, the next 3 being at home and then 2 on the road is a major advantage. You beat New Paltz, you pretty much wrap things up here. So I'm guessing, not that you're not looking past the next game, but the next game's the most important.
Yeah. For us, we've gone in with that mentality each game, during the streak, was that next game was really important for us because again, we kind of felt this group had the end in mind all along, and we knew that if you made a choice to step off that gas pedal at any point, it could ultimately come back and bite you down the road, and they've done a really good job with that. But yes, obviously New Paltz, the one loss that we have on the road from early in the season, I think they took it at us pretty good in that game, and I'm hoping that our kids can step up to that challenge tomorrow night. Moving forward after that, a couple home games, certainly nice. Oneonta's defense is always very strong, and Oswego has some great young players. They're definitely a team to watch moving forward. And then that North Country road trip, it's not easy, especially in February. And we're going to walk into Plattsburgh, who's until it's over, they're the reigning champs, and you're going to go in there on senior night, and you've got Brittany Marshall, who's one of the best players to ever put a uniform on there on the last game on her home court, and that's always a challenge.
Yeah, sure. It's only through the North Country. You've got 2 choices, and neither of them are short. 5.5 hours by car. I'm sure that's closer to 6 hours by bus.
Yeah.
Though I am kind of curious, is that a trip where you guys take 81 up through Watertown, or do you head into the Rome, Utica area and then head through the mountains that cut off the corner, or do you head all the way to nearly Albany before heading north?
It depends who we play first. With Potsdam and Plattsburgh being back-to-back Friday, Saturday. This year we play Friday first, so we'll go to Syracuse and up 81, and then cut across the top in the middle of the night to get to Plattsburgh. But yeah, if we do go to Plattsburgh, we try to get ourselves to about Rome and start cutting our way up a little bit. Usually, I think we get off in Amsterdam and start working our way up towards Saratoga and try to cut off a little bit of that Albany corner.
Yeah, that's a heck of a trip, I'll freely admit. I know that area a little bit.
And that goes back to why it's important to host. We made that trip last year. That's not easy.
No, and certainly can take a toll on many a folk.
Sure.
I actually wanted to look over the trip a little bit because I know some of the roads out there. Let's talk about this team. While you mentioned you've got a lot of seniors on it, and it's pretty senior-laden, that's not necessarily who jump out at you when you look at the stat sheet. You've got a senior in Shannon McGinnis leading the way at 14.5 points a game. She's also hauling down 11 rebounds a game, nice double-double average. But it's 2 juniors in Dana Cohen and Allison McKenna, and it's who are also your double-point scorers, both at 10 points a game. And it's Kara, is it Hopert?
Kara
Hopert. And Bridget Ryan, who are 2 sophomores who are next in that stat column before we hit another senior in Briz Reinhardt and Katie Peterson. So, yeah, you've got a lot of senior leadership, but that's not necessarily the nuts and bolts of this team.
Mm-hmm. I think our depth is a big piece. We feel pretty comfortable going fairly deep in our bench, regardless of the night. And back when we played at New Paltz, we had several starters out with injury. We had a couple starters out. We had one playing probably barely 50%, and we had to go very deep on our bench just to give ourselves a chance to win at the end. And we hung around probably longer than we should have. But we certainly. Shannon is such a high motor young lady. she just plays so hard on the floor, and she's one of those players that maybe once in a lifetime in terms of just the way they play, the aggressive, take no time off. There's a reason she just broke the school's all-time leading rebound record last Friday, and there's a reason she did that. That's her motor. But you pick your poison with this group. You try to take her and McKenna away inside, and you've got Cohen and Hobart and Ryan and Durand and these kids on the perimeter that can knock down the shots and put the ball to the floor, and then you've got Reinhardt, who if you give her an inch, she's going to get to the rim. She may go through you, but she's going to get to the rim. And again, she's a great role kid for us, putting her head down and going to the basket, grabbing rebounds. We just have a really nice balance this year. This group really trusts each other. They share the ball a lot. They've been moving the ball very well in the course of our win streak here, and hopefully it can continue. But we're really a pick your poison group.
Of course, 12 players have played in half or more of the games so far this season, so certainly willing to go deep on the bench. Another player that jumps out, just got some accolades recently, is your senior in Leah Soborowski. This is an incredible story, Coach, one I know you're proud of. Not only named the 2015 All-State Good Works team, which is an NABC and WBCA kind of combined honor, as it were, for what she has done not only on the court, but what she's doing in the community as well. But she's got an even better story. I don't want to paraphrase it. Can you give us a little bit of Sobiowski's kind of background and why this is such a significant honor for her?
Yeah, it's an amazing story about courage and persistence. Here's a young lady who's just beginning her adult life, who wakes up one morning and is told she's got about 48 hours to live unless somebody else loses their life and donates an organ. And those are the stories that you don't hear about every day. And it's really an inspirational story to anybody who comes across it. If you go to our website and you go to the women's basketball page, there's a story obviously on there about her winning the award, but within that story is a link to the background, and I would encourage everybody to click on that, bring a box of tissues. It's truly amazing. It's such a long story to make it as short as possible. Just under 2 years ago, we literally were getting on the bus on a Friday, or getting ready to get on the bus on a Friday morning to go to Oneonta on one of the road trips, and she had some abdominal discomfort, was struggling to eat. The trainers here suggested she go get some testing done. She had some tests. The technician said, we'll have a doctor contact you Monday morning, and next thing you know, her cell phone's ringing a few hours later, and they're telling her she needs to get to an emergency room. She went through weeks of tests at that point, finally to discover that she has a rare genetic liver disease called Wilson's disease. And she, in essence, had the liver of a 60, 70-year-old alcoholic, that it wasn't able to process copper. And, the family went through, obviously they tried to get on the organ donor list, and the father went through a lot of different tests to try and become a living donor, where they would take some of his liver and place it in Leah and hope it regenerates and all that kind of stuff. And she wakes up one morning, I believe, end of February, and skin's yellow, eyes yellow, she can't see. They take her to the hospital, and the doctor said, it's 48 hours. You moved up to the top of the list. You'll have to see if we can get our hands on an organ that's been donated. And fortunately for her, one became available. The surgery worked. And her one goal through the whole thing, the kids are going to the hospital, the parents are in touch with us. She's coming back to games wearing a mask and gloves just to sit on the bench. It's all incredible. But her one goal through the whole thing was to not only get back to school, but to play basketball again. And so she's back with us this year. And, I think that's a huge part of the motivation for this group, in terms of the togetherness and the trust and the willingness to share is having somebody like that who, has had a whole different experience than anybody else can even imagine as one of their sisters. And I think that's really a big piece of what's driving our success as well.
She's played in all 20 games, 16.5 minutes a game, 3.7 points a game, on top of 3.6 rebounds a game. Certainly a contributing, fascinating story, Coach. Hats off to her. Hats off to the team, too. That's a tough thing to go through when your teammate is stricken, and clearly they're playing well. And as you said, it's just that underlying motivation, almost like.
Sure. Yeah. Especially the ones that were here when it took place.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing and practicing Monday through Saturday, and Sunday's your only day off, and most of them are piling in cars and driving up to Rochester to see her in the hospital. And that, even though we had a lot of success that year, again making that conference championship game, only to lose at New Paltz. What they had to overcome in terms of exhaustion and mental fatigue was pretty special for them, and they've stuck by her side through the whole thing, and now she's back, and she's a big piece leadership-wise of what this group is doing.
Well, with 5 games left to play in conference, 3 at home, 2 on the road, it has been a terrific season. Congratulations to her on the honor, especially. That she'll be. You said she's going down the D1 Final Four to be honored for that, correct?
Yeah, she gets to go down. Allstate, who sponsors the award, is the one who will bring her down. I know they parade her through a series of events, and she gets to attend a lot of the big activities that are part of the tournament itself. And I'm not sure if it's either between the 2 semifinal games or prior to the championship game. The whole Good Works team will be brought out onto the court to be recognized. So, again, it's unfortunate that she had to go through what she did to have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but we're all very happy for her.
Well, congratulations once again to her. And
thank you.
Congratulations on the season, Coach. Certainly impressive, as we pointed out. Before we let you go, though, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time to recognize Geneseo women's basketball and talk about our conference and our region a little bit. We've worked very hard over the last handful of years here to make that name on the front of our uniforms mean something. So we're just excited you asked us to join you.
Well, absolutely. Do me a favor, give Jim Lyons a hard time. He's my former head coach.
I will. I'll be sure to do that.
You tell him that I may have to come up there and make sure everything's okay.
Fair enough. I will.
Thanks so much for coming on, Coach. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Scott Hemmer joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. Again, team is 16-4 overall. Of course, we should really point out they're 16-3 in Division III, with their one loss coming to Division II Roberts Wesleyan. Team is 12-1 in SUNYAC play. Get back right to it on Friday at home against New Paltz and home against Oneonta on the 14th. Then at home in the middle of a week game against Oswego before hitting the road for that long trip to Potsdam and Plattsburgh to wrap up the season before the SUNYAC title will most likely come through Geneseo State, but obviously a little bit more work to do. We're going to take another break. When we come back, plenty more Hoopsville ahead on this show. We will jump up and talk, still continue our women's basketball conversation, but jump into Virginia and talk to a team we haven't talked to in a little while. Not that they aren't still dangerous. The Mary Washington Eagles. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. It is our February 12th show, following another Wacky Wednesday. We've self-titled this show Wacky Season, and it certainly has been, though not necessarily all of our guests are part of the wackiness of it all, but nonetheless, it is a topic that has garnered our attention. So if you have any questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Of course, on Thursdays, we cover 4 specific regions. Those are the East, Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and West, though we will certainly jump out of that for other things like our School of the Week, which will be coming up later in the show. But we'll start off our regional coverage in the Great Lakes and talk to a team that's certainly been in the conversation the last few years, but maybe quietly under the radar, as it were, right now. They are sitting 16-6 overall. They are 11-2 in the President's Athletics Conference with a 2-game lead on second place, and it is St. Vincent Bearcats men's basketball. And so joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is D.P. Harris, their head coach. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, that is for sure. 16-6 overall, though certainly a bit of a rough stretch with 2 losses in your last 5 games after kind of starting off the 2015 part of your campaign on a roll. Of course, beginning of the season wasn't so friendly heading into Ohio necessarily, as you lost 3 of 4 to Denison, Marietta, LaRoche, and Worcester. It's kind of been an up-and-down season, as it were.
Yeah, we didn't lose to LaRoche.
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
LaRoche was the win in the middle of that. I apologize. Yeah. Denison, Marietta, and Worcester is what I meant to say.
Yeah, we had a really crazy situation here, tragedy. Pat Jones, our starting 2-guard, his mother passed away at the age of 48 years old, so we didn't practice for 3 days. And but for us, basketball certainly is a very small part of what we were even thinking about then. But the tradition here is unbelievable for Pat Jones. His father played here, his grandfather played here. So for us, that was a time we wanted to take care of him. And we actually came back, practiced, and went to the Marietta tournament. And so it was, and we played Marietta without Pat. And it was 58-56 with 4 minutes to go. So, for us, we feel really happy where we are right now with our team.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to be happy when you also beat Washington Jefferson 100-51. You beat Westminster 63-39. What I find interesting about this team is just the low amount of high-scoring games for your offense. Or for your opponent, I should say, from about the late November, really early December on. A lot of 60 sub-point games, especially in conference, certainly, but even in some of your losses, you only allowed Trine 62, and they're having a terrific season this year. It seems the defense has been, you only allowed Bethany 56 points. It seems like the defense has certainly been the key this year.
Yeah, defensively, we get after it, and we lost 60% of our scoring last year with Isaac Turner and Dylan Stipe, and Dylan was an All-American, and Isaac was a first-team All-Conference player. So losing those 2 guys, we just had a key on the defensive end, and we play 11 guys, so we just sit down, play defense, and I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot losing to Waynesburg and Bethany. In those 2 games, we had 40 turnovers combined, and we just can't win that way. And I thought one of the best games we played all year, and they're having a fabulous year, is when we beat Catholic. And for us, we only have one senior, so we're a pretty young team. So our guys are trying to find their stride a little bit.
I was going to key on that Catholic game. Since then, they've been on a tear. You beat them 78-67. I actually just saw them last night as they won their 14th straight. Of course, Trine tripped you up 2 weeks later, but that's a pretty darn good Trine team. Until you ran into Bethany, though, you guys had your own little bit of a winning streak here. But you seem to rebound off that Bethany and Waynesburg games just a little bit. Were the Bethany and Waynesburg kind of just right time, right moment type scenarios?
Well, I thought our schedule, we had some really tough games. We were on the road. We had to beat, we went through a stretch. We had to beat Thomas More, and we had to beat some really good teams, I think, to get us there. And I think we kind of tired out, and we needed a break. So, but our conference is getting better. Certainly the PAC, it seems like every time, I don't want to badmouth our conference. I mean, I don't. They're great guys. Our commissioner does a great job, but people will get to understand this conference is getting very good. And in the next few years, people better watch out, because there's some teams in here, Bethany and Thomas More, and hopefully us, who are trying to break through that block of history. We need to hit that glass ceiling. So hopefully one of us do it. And, I think, we're moving in the right direction. And it's a battle every night in our league. It's very physical. So, hopefully one of us do it. And certainly I'm hoping it's us.
The conference has been a little bit crazy in the sense of maybe how not competitive it has been. But certainly the middle has gotten a little bit more competitive. You've got a 2-game lead on Thomas More. You've got a 2-game lead on Waynesburg. Bethany's lurking 2.5 back. You obviously need to get the job done, especially when you see your regional ranking at 6. You got 3 games left. You probably are resigned to the fact that there's just no at-large bid necessarily available as the road looks right now.
No, we're a one-team league. One team's getting in from our league. I mean, the region's too good, and it's just one team. We know we have to win it, or right now Bethany is not a team that anybody wants to play. I think they've won like 12 straight or something. They're playing really, really well. So, we'll see. If we win our conference, we need to win 2 of the last 3, and then we host. And this is a pretty tough place to play. We have won 50 of 54 games here, 53 games. I'm not even sure what it is, but it is a difficult place to play. And hopefully we can get home court advantage for our tournament and have an opportunity to move on to the NCAA.
And look at those regional rankings. Marietta in number 1, granted, took their first loss last night. Ohio Wesleyan, then Worcester, Case Western Reserve, Hope kind of sitting up there thanks in part to their SOS. But you got Mount Union, John Carroll, and Penn State Barron behind you, who could conceivably leap you. Anything's possible in these regional rankings, especially when you get results versus regionally ranked opponents in play. You've been around enough to understand what that means, but how do you look at this Great Lakes region this year? Is it as competitive as that seems, or maybe is it a little bit down? And I don't mean down in a negative way. I just mean the top has kind of come down, that you're picking up a ton of losses as a result.
Yeah, I think so. We played Mount Union and we beat them. Not Bethany, but Marietta. Marietta, John's a great coach, and but when you get it this time of the year, anybody can beat anybody, and especially when you get in those conference tournaments. So I guess on our case, we're hoping that there's no upsets, but the region, I think there's a lot of parity in our region, so you have to show up every single night, and like other regions, I mean, there's just teams that are at the top, and traditionally those teams have always been there, and most likely they're going to stay there because they know how to run their program. So, but I think our region's strong. Marietta's a real physical team, and Worcester, I mean, they have a great coach and a great program. So, you're not just going to show up. So, we'll see what happens.
Talking to D.P. Harris here of Saint Fisher. Yeah, there we go. St. Vincent. I don't know where Fisher came from.
Yeah.
Talking Great Lakes region, and of course his team. And Coach, let's talk a little bit more specifics about your team. It's pretty young. Young, relatively speaking. Let me phrase that. You've got one senior. Apparently, junior is the stuck year on your roster because you got a whole mess of them, and then you got a handful of freshmen and sophomores. What I mean by young is the team is on paper poised to maybe have a really good year next year, and certainly developing this year. Is that a worthy breakdown of how you guys look right now?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, Sean Kett from Miami, Florida, he has given us a great year. We have so much balance on our team. We haven't even had a player on our team get Conference Player of the Week. So, you look at us, we do it by committee, but we think we're good enough to get there. Obviously, this year we have a two-game lead on the teams in our league, so we think we're good enough to get there. And if we do get there this year, we feel that next year that we certainly have an opportunity to break that top 20. And we certainly feel that junior class, they will have, if they're able to, fortunately enough to go this year, will have an opportunity to go to 4 straight tournaments. We did that back in the NAIA with Tony Washam, Kenny Roberts, and all those guys. But being able to go 4 straight into the NCAA tournament, that starts to set us up saying, hey, these guys are, a cornerstone program. I think we were kind of, a lot of people didn't know about us because we were coming from the NAIA. And quite honestly, I mean, I didn't know anything about Division III. I mean, I really didn't. But I got a quick education, and, we had to change some things and certainly found out that, how many great coaches there are in the Division III level, and I love it. I mean, and people, a lot of my buddies who coach Division II and are in the NAIA, they're like, D, we're surprised. And I'm like, nah, I made a lot of good friends, and a lot of the former players that we have competed against. It's really neat, and it has really, really grown on me. So it's been a lot of fun.
And Sean Kent, your senior, is tied for the team lead in points at 12 points. He's leading the team with 7 rebounds. Then it's junior Pat Jones with 12 points, 4.5, 5 rebounds. J.C. Howard, your junior, 11.2. Jalen Bell, a junior, 9 points a game. Ben Klimcock, a junior, 6.5 points a game. Catching my drift. Bobby Swatwart, 4.5 points a game, junior. And then you get to a sophomore in Austin Ford at 4.3 points a game. So outside of Ket, who certainly is a major contributor on this team, especially on the inside, you've got nothing but juniors. And you talk about that learning curve, as it were, a little bit getting into Division III. What were some of the surprises?
To be honest with you, some of the surprises were how good the players were.
Mm.
When you're giving out scholarships, you really don't realize, it just, there were some really good players that we ran up against. And, when you're not part of it and you come into something new, you're like, those guys aren't really good. These guys are D3 guys. And all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second. This guy got a little bit more than I thought he had. And there's a lot of tweener kids who are 6'4", 6'3", 6'5", that play inside, and they're a little bit more versatile. And then I think also in Division III, there's a lot more hybrid 4 men who, some people put like a 6'1" guy, 6'2" guy, and now our 6'6" guy got to go out there and guard. And you're like, well, wait a second, I'm not sure I want to do this. And he's hitting threes on you, and now you're going up on him, and he's going around you, and you're saying, why can't you guard this guy? But I do think the coaches are really, really good, And we're certainly getting there. I mean, we've won, and we want to continue to win. And like I said, it's a lot of fun, and our players certainly, our guys now don't even know anything about the NAIA. All we know about the NCAA. So we're starting a tradition here, and we are in our league. I mean, starting to really, we're predominantly a football league, right?
Yeah.
Now here come these basketball guys. And, hey, we didn't even have football, right? We got the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we don't have football. And so we're about basketball, and we go out there, but now the games, you go to Teal, they get a good crowd, and you go to some of these games, but certainly not like when you go to Worcester and some of these other schools. They're drawing 1,800, 2,000, but it's we're getting past going into empty gyms and stuff. So that's a difference in our league, and I think Joe Underko, our commissioner, has done a really good job, and the coaches and the community getting out.
You wrap up the season on the road at Grove City, then home against Teal and Thomas More. Of course, Grove City 9-13, 4-9 in conference. Teal 11-11, 7-6. And then who was the last one? I already forgot. Thomas More, who's sitting right behind you. So it's one of those deals where the Thomas More game could loom large if you trip between now and then. So what's the message to the team?
The message for the team is one day at a time, one play at a time, and I know you hear that from all the coaches. But really, I mean, for us, we're just trying to get better. But Grove City played us at our place to a 3-point game, so it's not going to be easy going up there. It's their Hall of Fame day, and it's just get through that game and get to the next one. And if we're fortunate enough, we just got to get 2 out of 3, and then we get to host the tournament. And this is a really fun place to host the tournament. So, it'll be an honor to host it. And, if we're lucky enough to win 3 straight, Howard and Clemshock and all those juniors, they've won it each year they've been here. And I know they have a goal to win it 4 straight. So hopefully we're able to do that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Again, 16-6 overall. Of course, I should point out it's 15-6. In Division III, as we did have that Penn State Fayette game back in late November. Team 11-2 in the PAC, 3 games to play, as we pointed out. Win 2 of the 3, and you wrapped up the conference schedule. Of course, basically you're playing to host that tournament and get that AQ, if at all possible. As always, Coach, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, just it's an honor to do this each day, and certainly all the kids who come out and play. And I mean, last night we went and played W&J, and they honored a kid from our community who got his 1,000-point score last night in his ball. And it's just an honor to be part of this and get an opportunity to coach college basketball and certainly work with these young guys. So I'm grateful for all of it, and certainly appreciate all you do for our game and getting our Division III, some notoriety. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Coach. Take care. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll look forward to seeing how the Bearcats do the rest, and of course, hopefully see you in the NCAA tournament as well.
Thank you.
D.P. Harris joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. Again, 16-6 overall, 11-2 in conference, on the road at Grove City coming up here on Saturday, then home against Teal on Wednesday, if that's my math does that right. Yep, Wednesday, before wrapping up the regular season at home against Thomas More a week from Saturday. And, of course, hoping to have the conference come through the Robert Carey Student Center coming up after that. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump into some women's basketball, and we'll go not that far from Pennsylvania. We'll head up to Geneseo, New York, talk to their women's basketball team up there. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things, not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We've We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show here on February the 12th. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/hoopsville. Slight screw up there with our recorded segments. Got them out of order, so I apologize to anybody who thought their guest was going at a different time. We'll rearrange those at a later date. Or we can't rearrange those, but you'll be able to see them on the archive. Now, actually, if you want, it's like a DVR there on YouTube, or you'll see them later once we have the show fully archived. A reminder, the Hoopsville fundraising project is ongoing. 2.5 weeks left to go in that, halfway to our goal. Of course, our goal is half of last year's, which we hope, it would be nice to raise the same amount as last year. Why not? We got 2.5 weeks left. So if you have questions about that or want more information, we'll start tweeting out that in earnest starting tonight as well. Don't forget, also still to come, our School of the Week, sponsored by the City of Salem. The Sage men's basketball team and the Buena Vista men's basketball team will talk to us about the West region. Just got done talking the East region with Great Lakes region with St. Vincent, and East region with Geneseo State. Now let's slide into the Mid-Atlantic region, and on the women's side of things, the Capital Athletic Conference is certainly an interesting one to watch, mainly because Salisbury's walking away with it, 15-0 in the conference, 21-1 overall, but just lurking behind them quietly are the Eagles of Mary Washington, which got us to thinking we should probably talk to the team down there, and haven't talked to them in a little while. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Dina Applebury from Mary Washington, head coach for the Eagles. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on the show. First and foremost, listen, if Salisbury's not having the season they have, you guys are probably getting a little bit more attention. 16-6 overall, 12-3 in conference. Of course, Salisbury got you twice this season, and you're in the midst of a tough 2-game stretch here with Christopher Newport just coming into town yesterday and knocking on you guys a little bit. But all in all, how do you think the season's going?
Well, I think we're doing real well. Last year we were a little bit down, so this year we picked it up a little bit. I have 4 seniors who are doing a good job of leading us. And, right now the conference is tough. Salisbury is very solid with 6 seniors and 2 very dominant players.
Did you see this coming? Salisbury's certainly been building back to their former glory, as it were. But did you expect them to be on top of this conference, to see Marymount maybe behind you and Christopher Newport not necessarily struggling, but certainly not having the season we're accustomed?
Well, I definitely saw Salisbury coming. There was no question about that. They were very strong last year. I believe they had the strongest schedule in the region. So their record may not have been as impressive as it actually, probably really was. So I knew, they were picked number 1 in our, conference overall this year. So we'll see how things shake out. But they're definitely playing very well coached, and, hopefully we get a chance to see them a third time around.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd love to see them a third time around and maybe thank them so much for the previous 2 outings. The season's been interesting for you guys. We'll talk a little bit about the conference in a minute, a little more, but you played Navy this year. You have a tough loss to Washington and Lee. Those were back-to-back early on. You got into conference action and started clicking along. You got a win over Catholic, which has been tough to do over the last few years. And then you went on a long winning streak, literally between Salisbury games. And really that's what kind of propelled you into second place in the conference. What do we make of, Washington Lee result, or what do we make of a result against a Catholic and the like when you look at that? And I should point out, I may have said you beat Catholic. I think I may have misspoken there. But what do we make of those results, and what have you guys learned from those results?
Well, we do have a lot of young kids still in the, in the system, and a lot of sophomores and freshmen that are playing key roles. So, I think they just needed to learn and understand that we have to come out and play aggressive every day. two non-conference teams. Maybe we weren't as, hyped up about to play, but at the same time, very good learning experiences. And I think they set the tone for the run that we have had in between the Salisbury games. And really, keeping the kids learning, keeping them sharp. And, obviously Washington and Lee and Catholic are pretty good teams as well, and they've had some success through the years. So, it's not like, we lost to bad teams. But, hopefully, again, we just continue to try to learn from our mistakes and keep, trying to get better.
Second in the conference, as we said, of course, York is lurking. They kind of come on strong after a tough start to the season. They're right behind Christopher Newport. This is a race to obviously position yourself as best as possible in the conference tournament. I mean, Salisbury would have to fall flat in their face, and you'd have to win all of them, and I don't even think you'd still get number one. So you're looking at least staying in number two and getting some home games before you have to travel. How important is it to play at home, especially at the Anderson Center?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, it gives the kids a chance to have a regular routine for the days, especially during the week. On, I guess, if we get lucky enough to get a bye, it would be on Thursday for the semifinal round, and they'd still be able to get in class, and all their family and friends and students and all their fans will be able to come out to the game. So I think that's important for the university and important for Fredericksburg, and obviously really good situation for us to be able to play at home in front of our home crowd.
You guys, had a whole stretch of seasons there where you guys were stealing up plenty of the headlines. 30-win seasons, 20-plus win seasons for a long time last year. Last couple of years, a little bit lower than that, but certainly still solid seasons. But last year, of course, the men stole all the headlines with the season that they ended up having. Is it nice to kind of have this kind of resurgence again and be second in the conference, be in the conversation yet again, maybe, and be right there vying for a conference title? Not that you're not always vying for one. I just mean a little bit more conversation-driven.
Oh, no, it's definitely nice. I mean, it gives the kids a sense of, accomplishment and, of course, trying to play for the conference championship, hopefully, and the kids are focused. They've been working hard. It means a lot to the program, to the past alum, for us to be talked about again, and just to hopefully teach these, the young kids, what it's like to hopefully win a conference championship at some point in their career. So, I mean, it's definitely nice to be back, back here with you talking and, right now being second in the league.
Well, you guys have four seniors, as you point out, on this squad. And certainly what I jump out at me, though, is it's not necessarily the seniors leading the way. You've got a sophomore in Brienne Compton who's leading at 12.5 points a game. And then you have a senior, and then you have two freshmen, and then another senior. So what's interesting is while you have those four seniors, and we talked a lot about it on this show in the last few weeks, not necessarily does that mean those are the ones driving the ship when it comes to the stat columns and contributions. How key have been the underclassmen on this team?
Well, I mean, that's what I said earlier. I mean, we have four seniors that are doing a great job of leading us, but, we still rely heavily on a lot of young kids to, give us a lot of statistics and play a lot of minutes. And the kids, our freshmen and our sophomores, which Breezy is a sophomore, they've been playing real well. And, again, just learning the college game and adjusting into our style and, getting used to the conference play and, all the teams in the league. And coming down the stretch, like I said, we've, lost a couple here recently. We just have to get back up, go into practice, focus, and, prepare for the next opponent and, keep plugging away, not get too high, not get too low. So, I mean, it's, our freshmen are doing a lot. I mean, Breezy had a great year last year as a freshman. She's doing a great job this year. And like I said, I mean, we have a lot of freshmen that are in there playing a lot of minutes. Taylor Barton's getting, close to a double-double as a freshman. Yeah. And have a couple that come off the bench that are, really good, solid shooters. And it's just been fun, with the seniors being able to lead those freshmen and watching the freshmen, really trust them and buy in, and just the chemistry has been really good, and it's been a really unique and nice blend of upperclassmen and young kids.
When we look at the Eagles squads of those 30-win seasons and certainly made some incredible runs, you had some really good talent, and don't know the team as well nowadays. It's not that you don't have talent on it, but the talent that you had for those Eagles squads was certainly bar none the best that's been there. How much has changed? And the reason I asked that question is, I asked Nancy Fay a few months ago, what has changed has made it so much more complicated for them to compete for a championship. What's changed from your point of view in the sense of recruiting, getting talent to come to Mary Washington, versus where we're now seeing teams succeeding in a lot of different places?
Well, I think, sometimes, kids get excited about going to a program that maybe hasn't been that successful, and, the idea of building it and being the ones to build the program and being the ones to, to establish the pride and championships and things like that. And then, sometimes I think kids sometimes even get nervous about going into a program that has a high level of expectation, both academically and athletically. Sometimes kids shy away from those challenges. And again, recruiting just gets tougher and tougher. It doesn't get easier as these kids have more and more options and more opportunities. We obviously, at this level don't give athletic scholarships, but we're certainly looking to try to find kids that can get academic money, and also kids that maybe just fall through the cracks and can't quite make it into, a D2 level or a D1 scholarship. So it's very competitive. Basketball recruiting is very, very competitive. A lot of nights you're sitting in the stands, trying to talk to kids and their families, and there's, 4 or 5 other coaches sitting there trying to talk to the same person. So it's highly competitive, and you just have to keep, you have to keep on it. You got to try to find the best kids that you can get, and then, of course, develop them.
This Mid-Atlantic region certainly has gotten plenty of talent spread around. We've seen the talent at York in the years past. Salisbury certainly has it. You've had a steady flow of talent coming through you. And, of course, you're down on the southern end of the Mid-Atlantic, so you're seeing the talent also down there in the ODAC with teams like Randolph, Macon, and the like who aren't that far away. But when you look at this Mid-Atlantic, regional rankings come out. Salisbury sitting in 1, Scranton 2, Stevenson 3, McDaniel, Elizabethtown, and then yourselves at 6. How tough is this region now, especially considering the CAC is now officially in one side of the region versus split into the Mid-Atlantic, Atlantic, but how tough is this Mid-Atlantic region this year?
Well, I think it's extremely tough. Obviously, I get to see Salisbury quite frequently, and I definitely believe, they're number one for a reason. But Scranton has always been good, and they're obviously having a great year. And the same with the teams that are above us. They're very strong programs. I believe this is the first time Stevenson's really been up there, but they used to be in our conference, and I know Jackie does a great job with them. And it's not a surprise that it's that she's where she's at right now. And of course, like you talked about the ODAC. We had preseason scrimmages against Eastern Mennonite and Randolph-Macon, so we got to look at them early on, and very talented teams with All-Americans on those teams, and just it's a very solid region.
You're not afraid to play who you need to play. Eastern Mennonite, Randolph-Macon may not have counted, but they're the 2 top teams in the ODAC. Right. You obviously have it in your conference. You played Navy this year, just for giggles. I'm sure you play the Catholics of the world. Obviously, a former conference foe, but not in conference now. You're willing to go out there and challenge yourselves.
Well, that's what you have to do. Sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone and play some good competition and see kind of where you stack up and let your young kids learn what the level of play is, and just go from there.
When you look at the regional rankings, do you kind of, while week 1 doesn't necessarily mean much, it does kind of help read the tea leaves? Is this one of those scenarios to get in the NCAA tournament? Does it tell you got to win the AQ, or do you think you got some at-large opportunities?
It's really tough to get an at-large bid. I haven't had very much luck with that, so I'm really hoping that we can, get into that conference championship game, of course, and maybe, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I know it happens, and we've done it. We've been on the other end of it. We've been on both ends of that, but we just hope we get another crack at it. But I think we need to win out to be able to get in. But, I don't know what all the rest of the regions look like, and, however we it's going to be voting on those things. So, we'll cross our fingers and just try to take care of business and hope that we can, get in on our own.
Last 3 games of the season, 2 at home, Penn State, Harrisburg, then Southern Virginia, then on the road against Wesley. And nothing against those 3 teams. You've already faced your toughest foes in the last 2 games. Those 3 aren't exactly the world beaters, though Wesley is about a 500 team. So how hard is it to play those 3 games and get your team focused on those 3 games, and then turn around and you're going to have to play the top of the conference, for the top being the top half, and get ready to really get into it after essentially kind of having a little bit of a less competition. And it's no disrespect to them. I'm just talking about record-wise.
Well, I mean, we definitely have to come in and, we can't overlook any of those teams. I mean, Wesley has some very good talent. Penn State, Harrisburg, they're very aggressive. They're very assertive. They're not a team that's going to lay down and quit. So we have to come in and play hard. I mean, we need to continue to execute. We need to get better at some of our defensive rotations and offensive ball movement and things. And we just have to go in with every game trying to find a way to get better and just focus on the things that we need to do so that we can prepare ourselves for the conference tournament.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on the show and joining us and chatting it up about the Eagles. It's great to get a chance to talk to you, and certainly great to see how the team is playing. Again, sitting second in the conference behind a really good Salisbury squad with 3 games to play. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in tonight?
I just want to say thanks to all of our fans, and, we're going to give it our best coming down the stretch, and thank you guys for having me on. It's great talking to you guys.
Well, thank you, Coach. Really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll look forward to seeing how the season ends for you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
All right, take care. Dina Applebury joining us here on Hoopsville. Of course, don't mean when the season ends. I just mean how it finishes up. I realize I misspoke there. Love to see how they do. I mean, third match against Salisbury should be great. Salisbury, remember, we talked to them way back earlier in the season. Certainly doing a nice job, and nice to see the Mary Washington. It's nice to see Salisbury back in the conversation. It's nice to see Salisbury and Mary Washington competing yet again at the top of the conference. Glad to see it, to be sure. Got to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk to our City of Salem School of the Week, the Sage men's basketball team. That's all coming up. Sage? Did you say Sage? Yes, Sage men's basketball team coming up here on Hoopsville. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show here on Thursday, the 12th of December. Whew, let's not rewind the clock too far back on the season. February 12th here on the show. Of course, leading into Valentine's Day. Hope you have prepared accordingly. We'll be on the air on the 15th of February, right after that. Of course, on the air every Sunday and Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. If you're missing or if you don't see a show, you can catch the archive. You can also listen to it on SoundCloud, etc., etc. Certainly plenty of ways you can interact with us. If you got any questions for us, you can tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Don't forget about the Hoopsville fundraising campaign. We'll start tweeting out quite in much more earnest, even on Facebook and the such, in the next few days. We've got 2.5 weeks left to go in the campaign. Only raised about half of the goal that we have stated. The goal is mainly so that we can keep a little bit more of the money. The fees go from 10% to 4%, essentially, or 5%. And so fees for running the site are a little bit less, and we can keep more of the money, do more with it. So help us cover Division III the way it deserves to be covered. I made a promise a couple weeks ago on this show to Laverne men's basketball coach Rich Reed that if we raised $7,500, I would set aside money to head out to Southern California and see some basketball out there in the SCIAC next season. So help us do that. It's the only way we can really do it, to be completely honest with you. It is hard to take money out of our own pockets to try and make this work. So any help you can give us, if you appreciate what we're doing, we appreciate your help. And if you can't, please, we understand. Send it on to somebody else if you could, who may be able to assist. Now time for our City of Salem School of the Week. And we love picking out schools we don't normally get a chance to talk to, and that is certainly the case here in our City of Salem School of the Week. From the Atlantic region and the Skyline Conference, it is Sage men's basketball. Sage men's basketball team 18-4, and on top of the Skyline Conference at 12-3. This is a Skyline Conference. Remember, we talked to Yeshiva earlier in the season. Yeshiva was undefeated in the conference. They've certainly struggled since then. They are now 8-6 in the conference. No surprise, but certainly hitting a rough 5-game stretch there for Yeshiva. But in the meantime, Sage, Mount St. Vincent, and St. Joseph's of Long Island are sitting atop. And so Brian Barnes joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Dave, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. First and foremost, congratulations on what is absolutely a terrific season so far.
Oh, thanks. It's been great so far, and this is just a terrific group of young men to coach, and just real proud of what we've done so far.
When you looked at the season, I've been asking a lot of coaches this, so forgive me, but when you looked at the season at the beginning, did you expect to be on top of the Skyline? Did you expect to be competing for possible NCAA berth?
Well, I think each time you start a season, the goal is to win the conference. So to expect to be competing, I'd say, yeah, we had that feeling that we had some potential to do some things this year and continue to climb the ladder towards the NCAA tournament. We've made some steady growth over the first few years of our program, and you know, you can't say you expect it, but I thought that with a lot of hard work we could get there and do what we're doing right now.
What you're doing right now is certainly pretty darn good. Again, on top of the Skyline, really tied with Mount St. Vincent, we should point out, at 12-3, though you've got the better overall record. Mount St. Vincent beat you earlier in the season, 77-71. And, of course, you returned the favor, 106-81. I guess you wanted to send a message in that one. You look at the schedule. I mean, you've got a win over New York University in what was an early game on the 21st of November. You unfortunately lost to what has turned into a pretty good Brooklyn squad. You got that win early on that kind of disrupted things for Yeshiva. You went through the conference pretty well. By the way, the trip to SUNY Canton, we're going to have to talk to you about that. That's not an easy trip from anywhere in New York. But then you're kind of rolling through the conference at this point, and you've got Yeshiva coming up, obviously, next on your schedule. We'll talk about that. But you got a mix of what is turned out to be a pretty decent conference this season, on top of some really interesting games out of conference.
Yeah, I think the conference has been pretty balanced throughout the years, with the exception of Purchase being out front for the last 5 years. And
yeah.
With our scheduling, we try to challenge ourselves a little bit with some non-conference tournaments and really prepare us for the brutal travel schedule that is the Skyline for us, because we're of course up in Albany, and all of our trips are
right.
2.5 hours, with the exception of Mount St. Mary.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the challenge for you guys is the travel. Got to head down out of the snow, I should point out, down into a less snowy area. Certainly, you guys have had to deal with the elements as well. How weird has this season been?
It's been crazy. We had a couple reschedules, with the snow. Our women's team actually has been affected more. They're now playing every other day now for the next week, which is tough this time of year. But we've stayed focused at the task at hand, and we talked to the team a lot about playing February basketball and how important it is to respect the process of trying to become a championship team, and that's really kept our group focused each day in practice.
Talking to Brian Barnes, head coach for Sage, the men's basketball team, having a terrific year as we talked about earlier. If you have any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Coach, you're in a position where they're going to have to maybe come up to Albany, to Troy, New York, to play. You've got, in the conference tournament, you've got 3 games left, at home against Yeshiva, and then you're on the road, Mount St. Mary and St. Lawrence, to wrap things up. Obviously, you need to win, but so how do you get the team focused on the task at hand while understanding the big picture at the same time?
Sure. It's about respecting the process, as I mentioned, and going into practice every day focused and keeping that switch on, which is something we've struggled with at times during halves of games. We've been a second-half team for the majority of the season, and we talked to the guys about keeping that switched on and staying focused. I mean, I think we've got a tremendous advantage at home with our support that we're getting. It's a small gym with a small college feel to it. All of the student athletes very supportive. We've got a student section we call the Swamp, and the soccer team, I'd say the men's soccer team, has been the ringleaders in that department, and we just want to win as much as we can so that we can keep it at home for the Skyline Conference tournament.
When you look at let's look at this team, essentially how you guys are made up. You're a pretty young squad, a lot of juniors, a couple seniors, and a handful of sophomores as well. You're almost kind of positioned for the future, almost kind of ready for next year, as it were. You are led by a senior in Kai Deans, 18.2 points a game. Andre Robinson, a junior, 11.5 points a game, along with Jordan McCray, who's also a junior, and then a senior in Melvin Ford has 8.8 points a game. Of course, Dean's also hauling in 9 rebounds. You'll certainly miss his presence, but you got a lot of guys who are getting to learn how to win at Sage now. That's got to bode well for down the road as well.
I think so. I think we're set up for for a pretty good 2-year period, but the focus is really on this year and these seniors and making some special memories for our 3 seniors who are going to be huge losses. Kai Deans, as you mentioned, having a fantastic season. Jake Sopchak, another big guy coming off the bench, is leading our conference in shot blocking, and Troy Nwana, who's been a spark off the bench last night at Purchase. He pumped in 22 points, and the 3 of these guys who are our 3 captains, they're really the focus down the stretch here, so that we can make some special memories for them because they truly deserve it.
When you look at the fact that you're in position to do something special this season, can it be a little hard to not let it go to your head a little bit, as it were?
No, I've said this a few times about respecting the process and keeping the switch on. We're hungry. I mean, we haven't accomplished anything yet to be in first place at this point in the season. It's great, but we haven't accomplished anything. So I think when you watch our team play, they feel that because we talk about it, and they're hungry, they're focused, and to keep climbing that ladder. I mean, we were in Purchase last night, and I said to the team under the basket before we started the game, so I said it's hard not to walk in here and notice 4 NCAA tournament appearances and 4 conference championships in the last 5 years. So we're very much a hungry group.
You guys certainly are getting the job done. That's for sure. You do have the game against Yeshiva coming up, then Mount St. Mary and St. Lawrence or Sarah Lawrence. You need to stay ahead of Mount St. Vincent. Of course, you split the doubleheader there, so they're going to have to go to other categories like St. Joseph of Long Island. But speaking of St. Joseph of Long Island, you guys have also had some funny moments. You guys played them at home just, 5 days ago and beat them 87-63. But were you sure you were playing the men's team? They forgot their jerseys and had to wear the women's jerseys. How strange of an occurrence was that?
It was very strange, and I walked into the gym. The 20-minute warm-up clock had already started, so of course they were up there, taking pregame warm-ups. And the St. Joe's coaching staff, just a great group of guys. And had we known they were going through that, and that's what they were going to do, we could have offered to have them wear our road jerseys.
I was going to ask
something like that, make them a little bit more comfortable, but. They shot it pretty well from three in the first half. So, I don't know how much the jerseys were a factor, but certainly a very, very entertaining moment when you look back, at least for us.
I feel bad for them having to wear the women's jerseys after the women's team just finished wearing them for a game. Of course, the other thing that's interesting this season is that Purchase, who clearly was probably the favorite to win this conference, enters. We had them at the Hoopsville Classic. They lose their all-everything guy plus 6 other guys to injuries before the season even starts. Talk about just getting flipped on its head a little bit. How strange was it to be playing this season right now, knowing that maybe one of the favorites in Purchase just isn't the same team that you guys all expected them to be at all at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think they certainly had some setbacks. I mean, to put it mildly, they have, they still have good players. They got some guys back after first semester. Coaches really do a good job there recruiting talent and, getting those guys to play. So, but it definitely was a setback for them not to be at full strength early in the season. And really just coming in January trying to piece things together. And I still think they're going to be a very strong team here down the stretch.
Talking to Brian Barnes here, Sage head coach. Team is 18-4 overall, 12-3 in the Skyline. Coach, your sports information director, Ann King, is a dean, as it were, in the sports information world. Had a wonderful conversation with her today. She was so kind as to share with me some pertinent information. If you don't mind, we're just going to play a quick little clip here on YouTube. You should be able to maybe hear it. I'm not positive, but we'll do our best.
And we talk a lot about making memories. Okay, it's the very first thing that I said in our summer workout letter. Let's get ready to make some memories. Okay, we are absolutely doing that this season. The best is yet to come.
Hold on, Coach. The best part's coming.
For their support. There's a special person here today who I would like to thank for her support. And that's my girlfriend, McHugh.
It's a little long, Coach. Bear with me. I know you know what's coming. I just want to warn everybody that the best part's coming.
Michelle?
Sit out.
Michelle, I think you're beautiful. I love you with all my heart. And I'd like to make a lifetime of memories with you. Will you marry me?
For the record, she said yes.
She did say yes.
Yes, she said. From our vantage point, she's just bouncing up and down. We were pretty sure she said yes. Coach, first and foremost, this happened just recently, did it not?
This was this past Saturday.
So, listen, you want to keep your team focused. You're distracted. All men have been through this who are married. They understand that's not an easy thing to keep separated in there. How in the world do you keep focused when you know you're about to drop that bombshell?
Oh, boy. It was tough. It was just such an exciting day and an exciting week. It was going off rain or shine, whether we won or we lost. So I think the game really kind of helped give me something to focus on. And it was an opportunity that I saw where we would have so many special people together. Her parents, my parents, friends, family, the team, of course, really to give her the kind of proposal, that she deserved. So it'd be truly special, and we, of course, have it on film now forever.
Well, it's definitely on film, whether she likes it or not. Did the team know? Did anybody besides apparently the mascot who was hiding the ring know about it?
No, you know what? I had told one of our assistant coaches he's gonna do the video, and he was actually on the camera. The team had no idea, and the mascot is funny story here. Quickly, I told the mascot the day before. He hasn't been the mascot. That's our manager who does the book. The mascot couldn't make it that day. So I said to our manager the night before, we're going to have our tailgater party after the game. There's going to be a lot of kids there. I'd like you to put the costume on for 10, 15 minutes, kind of walk around. And that's what I told him the night before, and we got about five minutes before the big proposal there, and I called him into the locker room. And I said, "Look, here's what's really going on. Don't screw it up."
See, I would have hit it in his gator mouth.
Yeah, well, there's no enclosement there, so it probably would have fell out. But you could see him in the video, kind of fumbling around with it, trying to get it out. So I think he might have been a little bit nervous also.
You've got a ring that is not yours, and you're not proposing to somebody. It's everybody else. Yeah, he's nervous. Of course, he's nervous. Hey, Coach, congratulations. That is an outstanding opportunity for you. I'm glad she said yes. Good luck with the marriage plans in the sense of planning that wedding. Just sit back, let her do it. Just
absolutely,
it's a lot easier. Hey, Coach, the other part of being in the School of the Week was we have a little fun with trivia. So I hope you don't mind. We always have a little fun with the City of Salem School of the Week trivia contest. In the sense, we just ask you about 5 questions regarding the college, the program, maybe the athletics department. Do you mind if we have a little fun with you and ask you some 5 questions?
Sure, I've been stressing out about it all day.
It's not. Trust me, I didn't do that great of research for this one. You're going to get most of these pretty darn easily. We'll start with an easy one. Sage College has only been a full institution for a few years. What was the name of the school prior?
It was Junior College of Albany, and they were the Sabres.
And you told my second one. My second question was going to be, what was the previous mascot? Well, there it goes.
2.
There you go. Yeah, 2 for 2. 2 for 2 without even trying. That's the ridiculous part. A lot of people do not realize this, but it's actually called the Sage Colleges. Can you name me the 3 colleges involved?
Sage College of Albany, Russell Sage College, and the Sage Graduate Schools.
You're correct, sir. I told you. Really didn't try that hard at this. Whatsoever. Just throwing things around, really. Of those 3 colleges, though, which was the first one to establish and when?
Russell Sage. I believe we've got 100. We've got 100 years coming up. I'm going to say 1917.
It's close. 1916.
Okay.
That was pretty good. I'll give you that one.
Up.
And the next one, I'm going to go to your program here. Obviously, these are records based on you guys as a 4-year institution. I didn't go into the JC Albany group. Who has scored the most points for the program, and how many points did he score in his career?
Well, the first part's easy. That's Mason Horn.
It's not Mason Horn.
The most points for our 4-year program?
Yeah.
It's Mason Horn.
Well, I've got this as Matt Farbotko.
Matt was our first 1,000-point scorer, but Mason is our all-time leading scorer.
Oh, yeah, I'm just talking 4-year. I'm sorry. So Mason scored more at the other when you guys were JC Albany?
No, he was 4-year, but he was a fifth-year player because he had an ACL. So maybe that's what's throwing it off.
Well, I got Matt down for 1,244 points and Mason down for 975. You know what? The other thing too is here. I just realized this isn't maybe updated. So Matt's probably passed, or Mason probably passed Matt. Now that I think about it, I'm getting old information. That's my fault. I didn't do good enough research. You're probably right. Now that I look at this, you're right. The 5th year is going to leap him over that. Disregard, coach. You got all 5.
Perfect.
I told you I didn't have the greatest research in my efforts today. I did my best. Coach, congratulations on what is absolutely a terrific season, obviously, for the Gators. I gotta love Gators in Albany, by the way. It's like the River Rats of the ice hockey world up there. Again, 18-4 overall, 12-3 in conference. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, just final thoughts. Really a big thank you to all of the support staff and the folks at Sage from the athletic training staff, certainly Ann King in athletic communications, my boss, Danny Drews, our athletic director, and the support really, it starts with the student body and the student athletes and all the way up through the coaches and the administration, President Scrimshaw. It's just small college, as I mentioned, with that small college feel that makes it special.
Well, congratulations, like I said. Well said, and good luck the rest of the season. Love to see the Gators in the NCAA tournament, so we wish you the luck to get there.
Thanks so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Take care. And congratulations on the engagement.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
Take care. Brian Barnes joining us from Sage. Again, the team is 18-4 overall, 12-3 in conference action, taking on Yeshiva on Sunday. Obviously playing Yeshiva on Sunday at home, and then Mount St. Mary and St. Lawrence on the road to wrap up the regular season. A little bit behind schedule. Got 2 more guests still to come, believe it or not. We'll jump out to the Iowa Intercollegiate Athletics Conference, talk Buena Vista, and then we'll talk to a donator here of the Hoopsville fundraising project, and we'll talk to Phil Nagley coming up here on Hoopsville. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Plenty more Hoopsville ahead right here. And we'll be back right after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result, in my mind, is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Quick clarification. We had a little bit of a scheduling snafu. Started with us, got a little more confusing, and then got more confusing after that. Long story short, we said Buena Vista's head coach Brian Van Hafteren would join us on the show tonight. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. We apologize for any of you out there who was expecting him. It started with me trying to send out emails about interview requests during a basketball game yesterday while I'm PA announcing, and then flipping that around, and then in those emails, I should say, they say Sunday. I meant today. Thought I cleared that up. It didn't get cleared up. I screwed it up even more. Long story short, Coach Van Hafteren not able to join us, which is unfortunate, but we will get him on the show sometime soon. Of course, the West Region, fascinating. Of course, the WIAC being out of there, they're no longer a part of the conversation. But the West Region, probably not that surprising on the men's side. St. Thomas, number 1, St. Olaf, number 2, Chapman, 3, Buena Vista's 4, Dubuque, 5, Whitman, and then Whitworth. Whitman and Whitworth, not very strong SOSs. Of course, Whitworth taking an untimely loss to Whitman going into that. And Whitworth's SOS kind of putting them back behind Whitman there. So, the NWC is probably going to get one team into the tournament this year. Chapman, of course, now has another loss there. So, a lot of schools in the West are looking at just one bid. Of course, Buena Vista and Dubuque together, that's a fascinating tournament event. Of course, Brian Van Hafteren used to be the head of the West Region. He's no longer the head of the West Region. We'll get him on later. I promise you, either Sunday or Monday or Thursday. We will figure it out when to get him on the show accordingly. If you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Of course, you can also, questions for us. We're wrapping up the show here. We got one more guest here to come momentarily. But if you have questions for us, or if you've got whatever, Ask Dave, let's call it, fire away. Don't forget, we're also on the air 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. One other thing we haven't done a lot of pushing on, but we're going to try and start pushing it just a little bit more, is the Hoopsville Fundraising Project. Of course, the Hoopsville Fundraising Project, important to us because anything that you're able to donate to us helps us improve the show. It's helped improve this studio. We've improved cameras. We've been able to go on the road a little bit more often. It's allowed us to do things that we have not been able to do with this show. Let's be honest, I might have paid for the money out of my own pocket to get the Laurel Hill jersey anyway, but that would have taken out of the pocket from something else. So whatever, last year, very humbling, had a very major fundraising project, raised a lot of money. We put up a fundraising project a month ago at half that amount of money. We're not even halfway to that new goal. And so that's a quarter of what we raised last year. If we raise 3/4 or a little under 3/4 of what we raised last year, I promise the SCIAC I'll come out there next year for some basketball to take in. There's opportunities here I'd love to take advantage of, but it's hard to do out of our own pockets, and that's just the reality of things. So if you feel like this is something worthwhile to cover, and it's something that you feel deserves the attention of some sorts, please feel free to donate to the cause. If you can't and you can pass it along, please do so. We'll tweet out a link here momentarily to that, but you can also find more information on Facebook. One of the perks, by the way, if you sign up, you can sign up for a $25 perk, a $50 perk, a $100 perk, and a $250 perk. If those perks run out, we'll add more perks at different varying amounts. But at $50, you can get at $25, we get an internal thanks from us. $50, you'll get our thanks plus a Hoopsville t-shirt. $100, you'll get all of what I've mentioned, plus we'll get any guest that you want on the show, plus wearing their shirt. Of course, I'm wearing an NYU shirt. That shirt came from last year's fundraising efforts. And then if you sign up for $250 perk, and you can donate more than that if you want, and we have had one person donate more than that in one donation, then you get to appear on the show. Well, that gets us to our next guest. Phil Nagley donated to the cause. Not sure why. He's a freaking college student after all. There's a lot of things I would do with $250 if I was a college student, but we are humble nonetheless that Phil decided it was worth donating to our show. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Phil Nagley. Phil, thanks so much for joining me on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly earned it, that's for sure. We should tell everybody you're a Messiah College student, correct?
Yes, senior. I graduate in May, so now it's crunch time, find a job, do well in classes, etc.
There you go. That's the tough part about being a senior is the fact that the classes end and you got to figure out your future. So thank you so much for the donation. We will get your guest of choice on at a later date, to be sure. But we got you on instead, and we have lots of questions to ask you. You may have questions to ask us, but let's start here and now. Why do you love Division III? I mean, being a college student is one thing, and certainly supporting your team is another, but you certainly love this division.
Yeah, I think why Division III? Because I think that's where true amateurism happens. I think D1 and D2 athletes are being paid to play the sports, scholarship-wise, and that's a whole different discussion for being paid for other reasons. But I think at D3 level, people are choosing colleges not because of money for athletics, but they're choosing where they want to go because that's the right fit for them. They see a calling there. They see a higher purpose there, at least for Messiah students. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be a part of a program where, winning is something at a lot of schools, but at a lot of other schools like Messiah, winning isn't the only reason they choose that school.
No, that's absolutely the case. A lot of times just getting to compete is an opportunity more than something you win championships. Of course, at Messiah, men's and women's soccer, kind of good. Just a wee bit good. Something like 15 national championships between the two of them. But the other programs are certainly good as well. What got you hooked when you got to, at what point did you get hooked into the athletics when you got to Messiah, and at what point did you get hooked in to the excitement that is also Division III basketball?
Yeah, I think I got hooked in athletics, soccer season, mainly because they were doing well. I honestly wasn't really into soccer before I went to Messiah. And then the SID, Steve King, reached out about, working for athletics, doing different things, and that's what kept me hooked throughout the 4 years, different sports, different opportunities. And Division III and Hoopsville, mainly because you had Mike Miller on at one, you've had him on almost every year. And okay, go watch this. Okay, I'm watching it. And then I'm like, okay, let me watch this every week.
Have you really watched every week, sir?
No, but back then I was, Now I try to, like last week I tuned in for the first hour and then had to go do something. But, I try to, especially now that you archive it, put it on iTunes or wherever else it is, I try to go back, especially in the off season, and listen. And, being involved in the Hoopsville Classic, getting to be involved in, other things than just Messiah, I think it just shows a greater appreciation for the division and the sport as well.
I want to thank you for helping us out at the Hoopsville Classic. We should point that out. He did a lot of the writing for us. Phil, you certainly know the Mid-Atlantic region as a result of following the Messiah men's and women's basketball teams from both vantage points, sexes, I should say. What's your take on the region this year?
Yeah, I think first, just starting with the Commonwealth, it's a division that's competitive every year. Any team can beat anybody on any given day, except this year it seems like no one can beat Stevenson, at least in conference play. They get close. Messiah got close last weekend, and they couldn't pull away. And then Stevenson being a team that's very, not that they're only very good, but they have the depth. So if, one player goes down with foul trouble or an injury or whatever, then they sub them out, bring someone else in, and it just seems like they have that experience. They play twice a year, so they play every conference opponent twice a year, so they learn from that first game. And, Messiah was on the way to winning, and then Stevenson basically started double teaming, fixed up their defense, and basically forced Messiah into making a lot of silly passes, which seems to be a common theme this year. But, and then we saw it again last night, Albright. They've clinched a playoff spot. First time they beat Messiah at Messiah since, I think, 1997, according to their coach last night. But, Messiah, specifically the women, they have only two seniors. One went down with an injury at LVC, so that's kind of unfortunate. She's out for the year. But they're more of a younger squad this year. They graduated a lot of key players, which seems to be the theme over the year. But this year, they didn't really have a core senior class or a core junior class. So it's a lot of youngsters and a lot of players getting some starting time that they're not used to.
Yeah, absolutely, and that sometimes can grow into some success in the future. Point out, by the way, Stevenson men lost last night, but I know you probably already knew that. Stevenson women, of course, have clinched first place in the conference. The men's side, Lycoming still leads, but Stevenson's right there behind them with a big game coming up on Saturday between those two teams in Owings Mills. What about the rest of the region? What do you think about the rest of the region, especially maybe on the men's side?
Yeah, Messiah men, same, thing. It just seems to men, it seems like you never know who's going to come away up top at the end of the, conference play into the, playoffs. Top five make it on the Commonwealth side, even with E-Town leaving. I think it's still five.
Yeah, it's still five. Yep.
Yeah. 4 plays 5 and, 1 plays 4, 2, and 3, and then you go from there. But, the men, they got a big win last night against Albright. A side that's right below them in the bottom. Messiah at this point needs to win out and get some help on the men's side. The women, it's somewhat frustrating that they dropped that result to Widener, given that Widener's at the bottom of the league. But Commonwealth Freedom, it seems like anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Same in the Mid-Atlantic. It just seems like there's some results that it's like, how did that happen? Like Eastern beating FDU Florham, who Messiah lost to last year in the tournament. But, it's one of those things which is maybe another reason why, like Division III sports as a whole, there seems to be more upsets, more nail-biters, more games that there's those high-caliber teams that do well every year, but then there's those teams that you never know they're going to go on a Cinderella run. They're going to start hot like Messiah's men did last year and then flutter out and not make the playoffs, not make the NCAA tournament. But, it's interesting for the women. The Messiah women have made the NCAA tournament since I've been at Messiah for 4 years, but I think it's something like 15 straight years. Don't have that right in front of me, but this year, like you and I were talking yesterday, they basically need to get the automatic qualifier in the Commonwealth, and unless they somehow can beat Stevenson, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I don't see the Commonwealth getting an extra bid, I don't think, right now.
Yeah.
On the women's side. On the men's side, it's going to be, I don't think the men's side, unless Lycoming can really keep running along here, I don't see the men getting an extra bid, I don't think either. Just some weak, not weak, but just average at best SOS numbers throughout the region. Any memories you're going to take? Obviously, this season isn't over, but any memories you're going to take when you leave as a senior?
Yeah, I think on the women's side, I think just from a public perception, I think the women, at least to me, they seem closer, at least in their warm-ups and stuff, not taking anything away from the men, but I think I enjoy going to the women's games more, and I've been calling the women's games this year for Messiah Radio and such, but I think from the women's games, they're just somewhat more entertaining to watch because I don't know what exactly it is, but they just do something that's magical on the court, winning and losing, game in, game out. It just seems more of a family unit out there. Now, granted, Coach Miller had his daughter for 4 years on the court, one of the seniors that graduated, so it was somewhat of a family unit, but it just seems like the women, the chemistry, they're just tighter. There's something going on there. Probably Mike Miller's been there 29 years, so it probably has something to do with it. But it just going to those women's basketball games, going to soccer games too, we're going to miss that in field hockey. But, basically just being on campus is going to be somewhat weird when I'm not there in August. And I've never really gone home for an extended period of time. I've always worked on campus in some capacity in the summer, so it's going to be weird this summer when I'm not in the dorm room thinking, when do I have to go to work?
The life of a college student. Anything else on your mind? We'll leave it open to you.
Yeah, I think the Commonwealth and the Mid-Atlantic as a whole, the executive director was at the women's game last night, Ken Andrews. Don't really know why. I guess he likes to go to a lot of games, but usually I'm seeing him when Messiah's either when they were in Texas for soccer, national championships, or a MAC championship, whether it be Commonwealth or Freedom.
Yeah.
But I get for the women, Messiah was playing Albright. That was two of the top teams in the conference playing, and who knows, he could have had a meeting close by. But I just think that's another thing. With the conference, it seems like the executive director, Ken Andrews, and his staff seem to be, they are always they're always in the public at these events. They're not really hidden. Now, if you don't know who he is or who they are, you won't know. But, he introduced himself when I was in Texas, so I think that's another special thing at D3. D3 coaches and D3 administrators need to have those connections for a bunch of different reasons, but I think it's just more genuine, too. I think they actually genuinely care about the student athletes, the coaches, their staff, the fans as a whole. It's a different experience. Now, Messiah doesn't charge for admission, so it's kind of weird when, by the way, we have to charge because the MAC or NCAA are telling us to. But I think the students appreciate that more, that they do different promotions, different fundraisers. They had a sumo night during wrestling last week against York, and that's like the highlight of the night for all the people there that were there to see, people that could actually wrestle. But, then there was a men's soccer player taking on a lacrosse player, and that's like everybody's favorite takeaway from the night. So I think just the different promotions, the different atmosphere, the different experiences. Now, favorite memory, probably Messiah, will be when they beat LVC on the road last year. Mike Miller, Messiah's up by like 10 or something. Mike Miller, LVC calls a timeout. Mike Miller just runs down the bench and starts high-fiving everybody. You don't see that often.
No, you do not. It's a fair point. Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was a big win. They lost it. It seems like LVC and Messiah one year, Messiah will win both of the regular seasons, and they'll lose the third. It happens that they play each other, and they lose the third game, third matchup. But last year it was the flip side. Messiah lost close to LVC, I believe, and then had to play. They were the third seed, so they had to play Econ away and then they faced LVC away at LVC's court. And if anybody knows anything about LVC, their fans come to the games.
Oh, yeah.
Especially women's basketball, especially last year when they were making that run, when they were doing really well. That was a big, just like this year, Messiah wasn't doing that well from a historical standpoint, but, they somehow came away, somehow played well, somehow, stole that win from LVC. And for the players, it was a revenge type thing because 1 or 2 years ago, previous to that, LVC took it on their court.
Well, you certainly have followed Division III pretty darn nicely. I'll open up the floor. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, you had a job for me.
I barely have a job for myself, my friend.
I know you're crazy busy with, this place in Gaucho for 20 years and Stevenson this.
Yep. I have 3 schools and maybe a couple more to add to that lovely list.
Make sure you see your family, please.
Oh, I try. That's why I do the show in the house. Any other questions, sir?
Not really. Just, I hope, your fundraiser goes well. It's over 55% now. So I hope people start giving. I hope the schools and the conferences understand what you're doing. I know Division III seeing it now with your YD3 show, but I think people either aren't aware of it, like I wasn't, but then when you have that coach on the school, it's then made aware that, what is this show? Okay, cool. I just think you're doing, you and Pat and the rest of the D3 network and the soccer guys included that are no longer a part of the network for different reasons, but I think you guys are doing a service to not only the NCAA in a way, but those student athletes, those coaches, those fan bases out there that, you get a lot of, not hate mail, but you get a lot of, why didn't you pick that team for the top 25? I remember a Messiah athlete tweeting you and saying, well, why aren't we up there? And I'm thinking, you need to prove yourself on the court. And then the next game they lost. So it's like, that's why he didn't vote for you.
Yeah. That's sometimes it ends up working out it's that way a little too easily, don't you?
And then sometimes it's like, why didn't I pick you?
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
top 25s are hard to choose a lot of the times, especially this year. You got a roulette wheel, basically.
Pretty much. I'm going to start on the back here, just throwing up all the names of teams at above 667 records and start throwing darts again. I did that a couple of weeks ago. I think I'm going to do it again. Hey, sir, I appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate the donation. Very kind of you. We will get your guest request on the show at a later date. I promise you that. If I haven't, harass me. We will get them on, though. And as always, we give the guest the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Just to keep listening in. Dave does a great job. I think this show is one of the reasons why I want. I switched majors, too. I forgot to mention this. I came in math ed. A semester later, I switched to youth ministry. And then 2 years, basically to the date, I switched to sport management. Partly after a sports broadcasting class, we had J-Turn 3-week semester during January, and it's part of tuition, so I said, okay, I'll take this class. And then, between that and listening to your show, following all the stuff that you, Pat, and the rest of the game do, I thought, I think I'm better in sports. I think that's where I need to be. And, I think it's something that wherever I end up, whether it's, a D3 school or a D2 school or D1 school, I think you always need to remember where you started from.
That is true. Yeah, that is a very good point. Sometimes the where you start from is more important than where you end. Hey, Phil, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. Again, thank you for the contribution. I'll look forward to chatting with you offline throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Take care, Phil. Phil Nagley joining us from Messiah. Again, great donation from him. I really appreciate it. You can get on the show if you make a donation as well. We'll tweet out more information here shortly. If you got any questions for us before the show ends, tweet them to us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. I did get an email from somebody. I don't think I can. It's probably one of those in-depth ones. I'm not going to be able to answer it. Yeah, there's just no way right now. But I'll get to that at another time. Don't forget, again, we'll be on the air Sunday, 7 o'clock And then next Thursday, 7 o'clock. Of course, next Thursday, the regional rankings will have just come out because next week, as I said at the earlier part of the show, regional rankings will be delayed till Thursday next week due to the fact that the stats database, for lack of a better description, at the NCAA headquarters will be upgraded over the weekend, meaning there's going to be about a 2-3 day period of time there where games and stats will not get sent to the NCAA. As a result of that stuff will be put in on Monday. Well, Monday is normally the day that the RACs have their meetings, and as a result of the RACs having meetings on Monday, they need the data, and that data needed to have been already compiled. Well, it won't be compiled till at least Monday, so that means that the RACs will now meet on Tuesday. Tuesday turns into Wednesday now for committee meetings, when national committee, when those usually take place on Tuesdays. You get my point. So the regional rankings coming out next Thursday, and again through Sunday is the key. There's still Sunday games as a result. First and foremost, let me go through my guest list and thank again St. Vincent, Geneseo State, Mary Washington, and Sage basketball teams, and of course their sports information directors. We did screw up with the Buena Vista interview. We apologize. We will get him on the show in the next show or two. Either we'll get Brian on Sunday or we'll get him on Monday. One of the two dates coming up here soon. We'll talk to him about the IIAC. What else of note? 2.5 weeks left, ladies and gentlemen. Really, it's a week and a half left until we're into conference championships. Listen, this is already complicated. You know what I mean? It's already complicated in Division III. It is already a crazy year. There's already a ton of regional losses. If you think for any way, shape, or form that it's going to be a simple conference championship week, you're nuts. Let's just say anybody who's currently on Pool C, go win your conference. Because if right now a team is sitting there seemingly as an at-large team already, the chances of you still having a viable at-large opportunity come the end of this month are probably slim. Because there's going to be upsets. We've already seen, Wednesdays have been crazy this year. I haven't gone and looked it all out, but just look at yesterday. 1-3-5-9 all lost on the men's side. Plus, 19 lost? Granted, one of them was destined to lose, Illinois Wesleyan and Augustana. But Augustana killed Illinois Wesleyan. Certainly, Whitewater and Stevens Point, one of them was going to lose. But still, Whitewater lost. We're going to have a new number one on Monday, most likely. And it's probably going to be St. Thomas, who I've been voting for a month or more. I've been the only one for a couple weeks. It was weird. I just went with St. Thomas. I thought they were the best team. For my sake, I haven't had to change my number one vote. The rest of the top 25 has been crazy. I blogged this week. Crazy. The second half, I had about 30 teams last week that I was trying to get into 12 slots. The last 12, I had 30 teams. So now add in the original 13. So I had 13 teams plus another 30. So I had 43 teams I was looking at for the top 25. And honestly, I could have still cast my net even further out and probably easily have gotten to 50. Easily. But I whittled it down to 43. For the top 25. That is how the parity in men's basketball this year is incredible. Women's, the top is darn good. It's going to be a fun watch on the women's side of who won't get upset and who's going to get matched up when in the tournament. On the men's side, it's not going to be a question of who's getting upset. It's going to be a question of how many are upset. And the matchups are going to be fascinating because I've said it already. Second round, we always talk, oh gosh, I wish the committee didn't do that. That's the bracket of death. It's the tournament of death this season. I promise you, we're going to see second round games none of us want to see because everybody's good. Nobody's great. Everybody's good. Nobody's great. Everybody's good. You're going to get a couple dark horses, I think, in Salem. And I don't mean dark horse in the sense of a team that's never been there. I mean a team that we just didn't think could get through that gauntlet. Teams are going to survive to get to Salem. Survive to get to Salem. It's going to be a great year. Follow it all right here on Hoopsville. Sundays and Thursdays, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We're going to wrap up this show here. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. We'll be back on Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with plenty more Hoopsville. Don't forget the Hoopsville fundraising campaign. We are going to really start pushing that in earnest on social media, so please keep track of that as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Again, if you want to connect with us on social media, at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville on Twitter or twitter.com/D3Hoopsville. Also, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Of course, email hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you back here on Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. For all of our guests, thank you for watching. Thank you to all our guests for appearing on the show. And we'll be back right here on Sunday night. Good night, everybody.